Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Write this down. Write it down. You like writing things down?
Yes, we are one of those shows that keeps track of our predictions with statistics every single week here. Purple Daily and the OG edition of Write That Down, which you can find on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd. So we'll go through the accountabilities here. There's a few. It's a lighter time of year for accountability here because, unless you're making like Judd's Camp Notes predictions, which one of us did last week. It's just a downtime here. So we'll get into all of it here in a second. Jim Marshall, Vikings legend, sadly passed away yesterday, so we'll talk about him and reflect on his life and career. But North American Banking Company, gentlemen, powers these Write That Down predictions every single week. If you're looking for a better banking experience, look no further than a Twin Cities-based bank since 1998 with 6 locations in the Twin Cities. I've gotten to know the people at North American Banking Company over the last 6-7 months or so, and I can tell you, very friendly, knowledgeable people. You're not just going to be put through automation systems and have a hard time talking to a human. You can actually go speak with and build relationships with the people that handle your finances, whether it's checking and savings or something bigger like you're looking for help with a mortgage process, launching a new business. Go to nabankcode.com/Mackie to learn more. That's nabankcode.com/Mackie. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Write this down.
By the way, Judd's Camp Notes, some of the most, the highest praise I've seen of this show in a long time is like June Camp Notes. People are loving the OTA updates these last, even Doogie.
Well, Doogs had some very kind words for me, and I'd like to talk. I'd like to thank him a lot because
he's still going. By the way, we just faded his camera.
The most impressive thing, and Declan can confirm this because he also heard this. The most impressive thing was, and I never realized this about Darren before, he realized that I wasn't listening to him at the practice because I was focused on the field. I think he was telling me about
he was just blabbing to you at the practice.
I think he was telling me about his schedule woes for Tuesday because he couldn't record at the normal time and he had to record later, which he ultimately did. Phil missed it, but we of course made it work. But anyway, I didn't realize that he knew I wasn't really listening to him.
Sometimes you got to tune people out.
Oh, I always
especially
tune,
but Dukes I know you do.
Dukes just usually goes.
Yes.
Like Dukes doesn't, and I was like somewhere in his brain it clicked. I'm talking and this guy's not listening to me.
I feel like, far be it from me to give advice to the scoop man himself, Doogie, but I feel like he should have one of those customized Judd's Camp Notes notebooks out there. Is he just not watching practice or what's happening with Dukes?
No, he watches practice. This time of year, now I'm not watching how other people are watching. But this time of
Camp Notes.
But this time of year,
you should do that. You should observe how the other local
What's
media
Alec
members
Lewis doing? Does he have
Are
binoculars?
they doing their job?
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. Alec, I think, does. But anyway, I probably take more notes. But in fairness, everyone else I think is taking notes on their phone, and I still bring out a notepad for this. I switch it up. In training camp, I switch it up a bit. But I always start with the good old-fashioned notepad.
The ball guys, the baseball guys love a good notepad and scribble. They absolutely. I think I'm the only one. Audra's using an iPad, and here I am with my notes section on my iPhone. Just, okay, Rocco said this.
She keeps score on an iPad.
Mm-hmm. Audra does?
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive until the charge runs out and you forgot your charger, and now it's the 6th inning, and now you got to transfer over to the paper scoring thing. I find it's they always used to teach you this in school. If you write down the notes handwritten and then maybe summarize them in a digital document, boom, you retain it twice, and now
that's true.
Have a firm grasp on everything that happened.
That's exactly what I do. Yep, I scribble notes down, and then when I get home from a practice, I quickly go to my computer and write and transcribe them from the scribbled notes to actually get a better bearing on my thought process. Yeah.
So that's just a little peek behind the curtain of how
I can't talk too much about it. If I tell you guys more, I'm gonna have to charge you.
Just how the sausage is made.
You can't afford this information.
Let's get to the accountabilities here. If you're new to write that down, here's how this works. 3 Vikings or football-related predictions from everybody on the show each week. They must be quantifiable so we can keep track of them statistically. We keep track of completion percentage and touchdowns. The season runs from Super Bowl to Super Bowl. So we're not even halfway through the 2025 season yet. And listeners, if you want to be like Jeff and be a guest listener participant here, a guest listener predictor, you can send Declan a message through the Score North app. We'll get to Jeff in just a few minutes here. We'll start with Judd. You had nothing come off the board, so we'll start with your oldest prediction still on the board here and just highlight it. You said back in 2021, the first year of Purple Daily, write that down, that the Brian Flores lawsuit against the league would be settled out of court. So that's like still lingering, right?
Yeah.
That lawsuit is still...
Yeah, part of it was dismissed, but part of it is still in the court system, and as far as I know, it has still not been adjudicated.
Super weird. And we have no idea what the timeline is when resolution could happen. Okay.
Nope.
Do you think in his mind he's at all like, yeah, but I'm good, just whatever. I was mad 4 years ago. Or do you think he's still very much involved? Like, is he on conference calls every month or something?
That's a really good question. I don't know. That's at some point in time too. Don't you give your deposition and stuff, and then it just goes through the process?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not an expert here, but it feels like at some point, if you were a football coach who filed this suit, now I think my question is this: what's the bill like?
Yeah, are these all like? Is it 4 years of billable hours? I don't know.
He's basically has to live at TCO.
Yeah, he's just sleeping under the block.
Hey, Kevin, I'm staying here tonight. Okay, Flo, bye.
Okay, I had 2 things come off the board, including a terrible, terrible bad beat here. So we'll start with the bad. So I said last Wednesday, tomorrow's Judd's Camp Notes will have an observation or like a section about Ty Felton. And Sneaky Judd saved the Ty Felton thing for bonus Camp Notes on Saturday.
Okay.
And so my specifically highlighting tomorrow's Judd's Camp Notes.
No. So
a semantical defeat here.
Oh. Because you didn't see the Saturday episode coming.
But even if I didn't, this is a rookie mistake from a veteran write that down player here.
Mm-hmm. And
I could have just said Judd's Camp Notes in the next week will have an observation about Ty Felton.
And Burgundy just writes down what's on that prompter. I remember you specifically said tomorrow's, and that your toe was just past the line of scrimmage, man. Like it was a 40-yard bomb, and your toe was past the line of scrimmage. We got to come back a little bit. Penalty, got to redo the play.
It was like Kevin Durant in that Game 7 a couple years ago with the Nets, where he hit that shot, but his toe was on the line.
His foot was on the line.
I did say, however, that between now being last Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Central Time and a 48-hour window, that our guy Thor would put out at least 6 JJ McCarthy-related tweets, and by golly, my guy came through.
By God.
It's funny. He actually texted me like a day later because, Thor will consume himself some Purple Daily, and he texted me a day later, and he said, I think I got your write that down point for you. So maybe he was colluding with me. I don't know.
Oh, boy. So it feels like Thor...
I never reached out to him, though. I never reached out to him.
I never said this, not reporting this. I'm just thinking this.
But it feels like Thor, who is, definitely part of the Purple Daily family, might have been in a position where we should have, and I didn't think about this at the time, so this is in retrospect, safeguarded against him knowing about this.
But all of these are very, what's the word? Influenceable,
right. But
able
like,
to be
I take off my headphones if you're going to do Judd's Camp Notes prediction, right?
And you could go back and listen if you wanted to.
Or you could be just putting off the headphones and pretending to click, and you still can hear it.
No. I'm not doing no. I've got no. I have write that down ethics.
I don't know. Well,
that's fine. You guys can question me. I don't question myself.
Listeners had nothing come off the board, so we'll highlight a prediction still on the board. Ross Tucker, friend of the show, by the way. Ross Tucker from the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. predicted that Isaiah Rodgers would have multiple pick sixes in 2025. I think he said that like 2 days ago.
Yes.
The blowback continues 48 hours later off that episode. Oh my gosh, dude. Go read the comment section on our last 2 episodes. Go read the comment section, the YouTube comment section of the Ross Tucker episode, and then yesterday's episode.
Okay.
Where people are pissed that we did, like, we addressed it, but people are pissed that we didn't fight him on his Vikings either negativity or what was viewed to be like factually incorrect statements about like Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones.
That's hilarious. I will say this, on Get Up this morning, ESPN, there was a segment done on the NFC North and the power, and the title was Lions, Bears, and Packers, oh my.
And just no mention of the Vikings.
They were breaking down those 3 teams and saying that those 3 teams, and the Bears' love is off the charts.
Oh yeah.
Well, on paper, it's great, right? They overhauled their line. They got Caleb Williams, an offensive coach. They hired the hot
talking
commodity
about how
offensive
Ben Johnson, the reports out of the OTAs in Chicago are that Ben Johnson, if the Bears don't break the huddle right, he's making them go back and do it again.
Well, also...
Which, by the way, O'Connell was doing way before. Like, if you need to work on breaking the bleeping huddle, you ain't in my conversation yet.
That's true. Yeah, if you're that is funny. You're wondering like how advanced are the Bears in terms of the offense they're going to run? Well, they're working on breaking the huddle here in OTA.
And they are.
Worth noting too, I'm pretty sure the Vegas sports books have the Vikings at like 8.5 as an over/under win total.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think all of us, much like last year, the 6.5, we all with our finger on the pulse, Judd's Camp Notes. We know and see things that the national media doesn't. But I find it interesting that I think a huge portion of the Purple Daily audience, and I guess we can take a note on this, would want us to just fight and stand up for any sort of like Vikings negativity or dissenting opinion. If someone comes on the show and thinks that the Vikings aren't going to be as good as Vikings fans do, rather than just like letting them have an opinion and continue on and whatever, like you guys would rather us fight them to the death until they quit the episode.
So
which is like, all right, let's do it.
Inside baseball a little bit then is we got to have people that would get what we're doing though. Like,
right.
Can you see like, so-and-so is coming on to promote something and it's a fairly big name, right? And they say something and you're like, hey, listen, Randy Moss, you stop right there. Why? Because you're wrong.
Although Randy Moss probably wouldn't come on and say the Vikings are... No, one of the things that people took issue with is that Ross Tucker thinks the Vikings are a 7 to 9 win team. But Vegas setting the line at 8.5 kind of agrees with that thinking. I mean, we all think it's more like 10, 11, 12 plus wins.
Right, that's funny.
So, I don't know, we can keep the feedback coming. It's all good fodder, and it helps us calibrate the types of guests that you guys enjoy versus not. So... okay, Declan had 2 things come off the board. He said in an epic regular season finale battle between these 2 UFL powerhouses that the Battlehawks would defeat the Defenders by a double-digit margin. I think it was 13-8.
Yeah, it was a pretty long-scoring game.
And then you said JJ McCarthy would be present again at a Timberwolves playoff game. The spirit of this being this year. They didn't give him many opportunities to do that. So with that, here are the 2025 season stats. I'm sitting at 56.3% completions, Judd 48.5, Declan 38.5, listeners around 28.5. Judd and myself both with 3 touchdowns, Declan with 1 touchdown, listeners with none. All-time stats dating back to 2021, Declan just a tick under 37%, Judd 35%. I'm just a tick under 35%, listeners 24%. Judd celebrating his 50th touchdown pass last week in the litigation that we did at the end of the episode.
Got to meet a 50.
Yep.
Congratulations, Judd. You're still last.
Still last place in touchdowns. I have 61, listeners with 60. So, all right, dudes, those are the accountabilities. Let's get guest listener predictor Jeff in the house. Rocking that Randy Moss jersey. What's going on, Jeff?
Great Moss jersey.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Man, it's a glorious time of year with OTAs, shorts and shells practices, Judd's camp notes. So how are you feeling about the team here going into 2025?
Feeling good. I've been a fan. My earliest memory was the 1987 Darren Nelson dropping the swing pass to go to the Super Bowl. And then, of course, the 3 Wolverine scars for me are the 98 NFC Championship, 09, and then 17, of course. But I'm feeling good about it. I think we've got a great nucleus. KOC is a great coach. I think JJ McCarthy is going to be just great.
The 87 loss, perhaps, and it of course is now a long, long time ago, but perhaps underrated as far as heartbreak goes. That team's regular season record was not great, but that was on the replacement team, which was awful, right? You go back and look at the personnel and that team, that was a really, really good team. And you were, again, to your point, a dropped pass away from a Super Bowl berth. Like that to me is a sneaky one as far as heartbreak goes.
And
because at least the Giants and Eagles games, you just got your drawers blown off.
And to get one over on like the dynasty 49ers in that was great. That was that run, right?
Yeah, that was incredible. Well, and the thing with the Eagles game too is it was the week after the Minneapolis Miracle, and I thought this is our year. I mean, nothing like that ever happens to the Vikings. We'll win a Super Bowl in our stadium. We can rub it in against the Packers, and then the first half happens and it's over.
Boy, once every 8 or 10 years, man, this franchise is just good to crack us over the head with something here. So, Jeff, we're going to start with you, over to Judd, Declan, back to me. We'll make 3 trips around the room and make our predictions. You ready, Jeff?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
So, write this down. JJ McCarthy will finish in a top 5 passer rating in the NFC.
Okay.
And these are the qualified quarterbacks last year that finished in the top 5. That played at least 10 games. Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, and our very own Sam Darnold. So I fully believe KOC in his lab will be able to make JJ McCarthy a top 5 passer in the NFC.
Yeah, so he'd have to have, just in terms of a number, so Darnold was a 102.5. He'd probably have to have a 100 plus. Yeah, Jaden Daniels was right in there at 100.1. So if he has a 100, you're basically saying he's going to have a 100 passer rating.
Yeah.
Based on what happened last year.
Yep.
Finish. So did you guys see the report out of Seattle? So the first OTA that the media got to watch there, Darnold threw something like 2 picks and 4 passes. And so
in a red zone drill.
Yes. And so their coach was asked, McDonald was asked on a radio show the next day, is there any way that, perhaps Sam could lose the job? And he's like, come on, guys. No, he's good. He's our starter. But anyway, so they're charting the passes, and he threw, as Declan just said, in a red zone drill, he throws like 2 picks in 4 passes, and people are like, oh my God. And then he threw like another bad pass. Now, he did come back and throw some decent ones, and it's OTAs, and he's learning, but, and so the Sam Darnold experience away from Kevin O'Connell begins.
Yeah, this is you leave quarterback rehabilitation university, and now it's time to get a big boy job without the training wheels and the structure of school. And you're sleeping through your alarm clock. You're late to work. You got to.
And there's pressure.
You got to pay rent on your. You got to pay your own phone bill now. You know,
your parents kicked you out. Like you're out of college now.
It's tough,
and I will say, when Darnold, among the advantages that Sam had a year ago was there was really no pressure. It's a 1-year contract. It's not much. You might not even win the job. I think we thought he would, but and you show up and you ball out and it's great. And now it's like the Seahawks are like, oh, you're for real.
Well, there was no pressure, like in terms of Vikings expectations. But if you're Sam Darnold, that was your last chance to be a $100 million contract quarterback and a viable starter in the NFL if you don't take advantage of it. So he felt some personal pressure.
Absolutely. But I do think that also allows you to breathe a little bit because it's like, it's on you. But now it's like the team is like, well, hold on a second. We're paying you a lot, Sammy.
And they booted, Geno Smith was a good, solid quarterback for them. And they I don't know if they viewed it as upgrading, but they probably saved a couple bucks or whatever. Got a little younger. Anyways,
Write this down.
That's not a great first practice for old Sammy.
Nope. Okay, speaking of KOC, a quarterback rehab school, I'll go down that path with another guy who I think we all agree left prematurely. It's a mistake. Daniel Jones will be the Colts starting quarterback to open the season, but he will be benched at some point. So he's going to get the job. He's going to lose the job. Now, he might come back, but so Dex, he will be the starting quarterback to open the season, the regular season, and then he will be benched at some point. So not injured. So if he gets, so the spirit of my prediction is...
Can be semantical, though, a little bit.
We need some clarification. Like if let's say they're getting blown out in a game and they pull him for the fourth quarter and then he starts the next week.
No, that's not benched then. No. Good point. No, I'm saying performance-wise, he's going to be benched so he doesn't start a game.
Okay. And it won't be, we'll have to visit this if he's like banged up, misses 2 games, and then Richardson comes in and lights it up. If he let's play this out. Let's say Jones gets hurt for 3 weeks, and then Richardson comes in, plays well. Jones is now off the injured list after 3 weeks, and he is the backup. That would count. So you thought you were just going to throw a prediction out here.
I just want to be... No.
You know what? I'm with the Purple Daily audience. Can we let the Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold stuff go? Can we let it go?
Oh, the Daniel Jones stuff, I'm not going to let go.
Are people mad about that?
He broke protocol. He escaped. You know what he did? He got a ride out of quarterback rehab school in the middle of the night. The Darnold stuff I'm fine with. That's gone. The Daniel Jones stuff, though, he made a mistake. He made a fundamental mistake that he's going to learn was a mistake that's going to end his career.
I love how, like a year ago, if when Daniel Jones was with the Giants, if anyone had broached the notion of like, what do you think about Daniel Jones in purple? All of us would have been like, oh my God, no, keep that dude away. And now it's like we are personally affronted that dude turned down an opportunity to be the backup quarterback behind JJ McCarthy. How dare you turn down this opportunity? I'm guilty too, by the way.
Write this down.
All right, Dex.
All right, write this down. Aaron Rodgers will remain unsigned throughout the month of June. He's not going anywhere. I think he's going to remain a free agent. There were some trade offers, by the way, for Kirk Cousins on ESPN today from Seth Walder and Jeremy Fowler. There's Dan Graziano. Actually, the whole crew got in on it.
Jeez.
There is some juicy ones that involve Kirk coming back to the Vikings.
These are like hypothetical, like media just making stuff up, or
hypothetical ones. Yep.
Because he gets to dictate this dance because he has a full no trade clause.
Yes.
So like if the Steelers go to the Falcons, and this is where vindictive Kirk, who has not shown up for these workouts, right? He has not shown up for the OTAs. There was a story that he had at least not showed up for the first part. If you're Kirk and you're pissed about the whole circumstance, you're pissed that they drafted a quarterback 2 months after signing you, you felt betrayed, and then they benched you. And the Steelers come along and say, yeah, we'll give you hell, we're desperate, man. We'll give you a 4th-round pick for injured Kirk Cousins. If you're Kirk, you probably just say no. Right? Like, you get paid the same amount of money. Cut me. I'll go to the Steelers on my own. This is peak vindictive Kirk that we're experiencing right now.
I agree with that.
Okay, write this down. The Vikings will sign or trade for another quarterback before the first game of the season. They will sign or trade for another quarterback. Maybe it's Kirk. But I tend to trust Judd's camp notes. The Sam Howell stuff, very 50-50 right now. I see the vision because he was once very highly touted out of college, some talent there, but I think they might be a little unsatisfied with their backup quarterback situation. I could also backdoor this by them like picking a dude up off waivers, to be on their practice squad or something.
You could totally do something bogus. I hope you wouldn't.
Write this down.
Back to Jeff, second prediction.
They going to get John David Booty back here, or what are we thinking there?
Oh, yeah. Dante was hanging out yesterday at camp.
That's right. He looked fit.
Yeah.
I think he's lost weight from what I've heard, actually. I heard he was bigger than that at one time.
He's always been a big dude.
He's a big dude, yeah.
But he's still a big dude. But he was dapping up with all the quarterbacks and stuff. Was he like at practice the whole day, or was he just kind of visiting? And
I'm not sure.
Just came in
he
and
doesn't
like
come around a lot. I feel.
Yeah, he came in and he gave JJ McCarthy a hug, and a couple of those guys gave him a 5. And I couldn't really hear the audio, but it looked like he was hanging around for a while.
Was he teaching JJ the "Get Your Roll On" celebration? This is how you do
it.
it.
Not to hold a football. Yeah. Oh wait, my hands. My hands are too small.
My hands are too small.
Little hands.
Write this down.
All right, Jeff.
All right, write this down. I'm a big fan of Brian Flores. I hope that lawsuit continues forever and we can keep him around forever. And I'm also a big fan of the Dallas Turner trade up and draft last year. I was actually at the Score North Purple Daily in the Fillmore the year before and this year, of course. And it was awesome, that energy when we picked him. But write this down. Diamond Dallas Turner, because of the hogs that we signed in the offseason. That's right, self-high-five. Will have at least 6.5 sacks or more.
Okay.
Nice.
He'll hit the over on 6.5. Okay. Yep. Yeah, take a step, right? If you're Dallas Turner, need to take a step.
No Patrick Jones. Like I said, more pressure up the middle. I just feel like, I think our division got weaker because of the loss of the offensive linemen. I'm never going to be a fan of the Packers, but I think we will have plenty of opportunity to sack those quarterbacks and more.
You know what Dante probably needs is a little DDP yoga. He needs to get in there, lose a little weight, a little more limber, a little DDP yoga. I like that.
Yoga for men. Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page, for anyone, there's like 5 people that probably know who Diamond Dallas Page is consuming this, but legendary wrestler, Judd. Not legendary, like a wrestler.
I've heard of him,
from the 90s and the early 2000s. Yeah.
Write this down.
All right, Judd.
All right. Another guy that I think is not going to make it through the season, another former Viking, is Stefon Diggs, who will be let go or traded by the Patriots at some point before the end of the 2025 regular season.
Yeah, I had this exact prediction too.
I think Dex is frozen, by the way.
He's definitely lagging. I'll put him in timeout.
At first I thought he was skeptical of my prediction, and then I'm like, no, he's just lagging or he's frozen. So Stefon Diggs will be let go or traded by the Patriots. When you're trying to establish a culture and you are Mike Vrabel, an old school football player, and you've got this guy who, by the way, is no longer near his peak powers, right? Like he is an aging player. He's now been hurt. I don't think it's going to work out.
Also, you know what, Mike Vrabel, who comes from kind of the 90s, like when did he join the Patriots? I think it was before. He was there for that first stint where they won those Super Bowls early, right? Yeah, well, he was Steelers in the late 90s, and then he was Patriots from 2001 through 2008. Mm-hmm. And Randy Moss came along right at the end of his Patriots career. Mm-hmm. But you know what Mike Vrabel doesn't have time for? Wide receivers.
Yeah.
Like, if you think of the late 90s Steelers and the early run Patriots, you don't think of wide receivers. You think of defense, you think of running game, you think of Tom Brady, I guess Neil O'Donnell or whoever the hell was quarterbacking the Steelers.
And aging players, too, at that point, too. Like, he doesn't have time for a diva who's a has-been. Like, if you're going to be a diva receiver, you better have your name probably written in, like, the top 5 of the entire league, which Stefon Diggs might have at one time, but those days are gone. And the first time that Stefon Diggs does not get the ball consistently, is he going to come to Drake May and complain about it? Because if you do, you're gone for that as well. I'm not putting up with that crap.
It's the old talent to baggage ratio.
Write this down.
I feel like. All right, I think Dex is back here. Internet gremlins held him captive for a minute. What's your second prediction?
I also think I'll give you my second prediction here. Let's go with this one. We'll go with the over-under. The Eagles will not win double-digit games in 2025.
Wow.
I'm going to go under. I think if there's going to be a Super Bowl hangover, I think it's going to be Philly. So and 9 wins, like they could still maybe sneak into the playoffs with 9 wins, but I'm going to go under the double-digit win total.
Wow. Okay. I'd want to know who the second team in that. I guess you could say Cowboys. I feel like there has to be a second team.
Washington.
But Washington being the first team, assuming like if you're bumping the Eagles down, if Dallas steps up, but like the Giants, that division is so wonky. Oh, I'll give you kind of a similarly spirited prediction here. It was announced a couple days ago or yesterday, sometime early this week. Frank Ragnow, one of the best offensive linemen in the league for the Detroit Lions, center, he's retiring after 7 or 8 years. So the Lions now, since the end of last season, are without their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and probably the heartbeat of that offensive line. And their schedule early on includes games at Green Bay, at Baltimore, at Cincinnati, at Kansas City, all in the first 6 weeks. So write this down. The Detroit Lions will not finish, I'm going to say will not finish in first or second place in the NFC North. They'll finish third or fourth in the NFC North.
Coming along. You're coming along. You're coming along on the bandwagon. I said they'd finish fourth in the NFC North. Careful now, though. They might come after you for this one.
Well, you said that before they lost one of the best offensive linemen in the league.
I did.
It's even bolder and ballsier. We'll never know. But I think that's just a lot to absorb. That's a lot. Like your offense lost the coordinator and the starting center calling protections and everything. So I don't know, guys.
And Ben Johnson, my God. I mean, he's teaching the Bears how to break the huddle. So what are you going to do? Like, how are the Lions going to break the huddle?
It's going to be tough. They're going to have so many play clock violations.
On 2, no on 3. Games. What is it?
Sure. Is it ready, set, hike, or is it set, ready, hike? I don't know. Let's just wing it. Okay, back to Jeff for your third and final prediction.
Write this down.
All right, this is for my buddy Kevin. He knows that I love this play and kind of going with a 98 theme in a sense. So write this down. JJ McCarthy will have a completion of more than 15 yards on a flea flicker.
That's just at any point during the season?
Any point during the season.
Okay.
This is going to be such a bad beat, or it's like a 14-yard flea flicker, or something gets called back because of like a pass interference or something. But
I'll have him bring out the sticks, make sure we get this right. Got to get that. Got to get those cameras.
And Judd, by the way, if that flea flicker gets blown up, Judd's going to be apoplectic on the next day's Purple Daily because he hates trickery. He hates when KOC
actually, a good old-fashioned,
gets too cute.
No, a good old-fashioned flea flicker I don't mind. What I don't like is a play that is foreign to your personality as an offense. That's inviting danger.
But aren't flea flickers are naturally foreign to the personality of most offenses?
But I feel like you run them since you were a kid on the playground. I mean, it's a handoff, a pitch back. It's not that hard to play. You just have to have the guy get open down the field. But I mean, it's Aaron Jones takes the handoff. Oh my God, he's pitching it back to JJ McCarthy. Boom, down the field to Jefferson, Addison. I feel like I wouldn't rip that. But if you get really like TJ Hawkinson under center,
that I'm with you on that.
What are we doing?
In retrospect,
what are we doing?
Overthinking it. Yeah, Jeff, great stuff here, man. Since you've got this platform here, this life-altering, changing platform, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out in your life?
Yeah, I'll kind of do the typical. My wife, Melanie, for putting up with my daily fantasy football nonsense in the fall, and then my 2 boys, Caden, who got me renewed in the Timberwolves. Kind of a bandwagon guy, but he got me renewed. He loves basketball. And then last but not least, my little guy, Brecken. He's big baseball fan. T-ball is in full effect and got me back into the Twins about 4 years ago now. And so, yeah, they're great. And
nice.
Thank them.
Awesome,
nice.
Man.
Your poor wife. She's like, my husband was obsessed with football, and now we've got 2 boys, and they're into basketball and baseball. What about me?
I have a sign that in our basement that says, "We interrupt this marriage for fantasy football season." It's like the best sign ever.
Oh, that's a pretty good sign.
She didn't get it for me, of course, but yeah, it's awesome.
But she tolerates its existence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, awesome stuff, man. Hopefully we see you again sometime.
Would love it.
All right, guest listener predictor Jeff here. Before we make our final predictions and a shout out a Vikings legend who passed away, Neos Elite Performance is helping us get back to our glory days. Judd.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you were I don't know, an avid golfer, you played basketball, and now guess what? You're aging, the knees hurt, the back hurts, and you're like, I'm out. Don't be out. Just consult with my friends at Neos Elite Performance, who are going to help you get back in the game. What they have is cutting-edge regenerative medicine and cellular IV therapy designed to get you moving again without invasive procedures. White glove service delivered to your home. In other words, no doctor's office, no hospital. The experts at Neos are going to come to you, so stop the suffering. And also, if you reference Purple Daily to them, you're going to get $500 off. That's right, $500 off a cellular IV therapy treatment. And you are going to find out just how much the cutting-edge medicine and techniques that they use at Neos can help you. No surgery, no downtime, just results. Schedule at neoselite.com, Neos elite.com.
Also, a standard heating and air conditioning is carrying us through today's predictions, Dex.
Yeah, go to standardheating.com to make sure your air conditioning and HVAC is working appropriately. You don't even have to call them. You can text them. You can email them. You don't have to get on and talk to a human. You can do that on your phone, on your laptop. Doesn't matter. You want to make sure that that's working appropriately, and you don't need to DIY that stuff. Let the experts handle it, especially with summer now in full swing. You want to make sure that air conditioning is nice and tuned up for you. So go to standardheating.com to learn more.
Also, at Dennis Kirk, all you Ragnars out there, you like to ride your bike, your ATV, your UTV. Maybe you like to show off your garage build that you've been working on for the last few months or years or whatever it is. The second annual Minnesota Garage Build Bike Show, powered by Dennis Kirk, is taking place at Running Aces Casino this Saturday, June 7th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's free to register your bike and to attend. Kids and families are welcome. All sorts of vendor booths and food trucks, live DJ, and amazing home-built bikes to check out. So Running Aces this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can find out more information at DennisKirk.com.
Write this down.
All right, Judd, take us home with your third and final prediction.
All right. We discussed this a couple days ago, I think, on Purple Daily, and so I'm going to put it on the Write That Down board, and that is that the Browns will trade Kenny Pickett at some point in the 2025 season. Off the record, I think it'll probably be in training camp, but that's very specific, and I don't need to be that specific, so I'm just going to say at some point in time in the 2025 season, Kenny Pickett will be the Browns quarterback who gets dealt.
It's kind of, didn't they gave up Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Didn't they swap those two? And there was like a day 3 pick exchange there too. So yeah, it's what a weird deal. Like, talk about having no plan in advance for your quarterback situation. Now, obviously, like, they had Deshaun Watson under contract. And are you okay there, Dex?
Yeah, my wife is like stumbling around upstairs. I wonder what's going on. There's a bunch of noise going on. Also, I can't swap this. I know the audience is going to be like, why is that guy not back on the left?
Yeah,
it won't
I'm
let
all
me.
out of sorts.
Let me see if I can try.
Can you do it?
We are currently experiencing issues with the swapping of the like the reordering of the three of us. It's going to really derail some audience members.
I'm in my normal place, so I got nothing. Order. I'm good.
Hey, Judd, can you give me your second prediction when I did blip out there?
Was that the Diggs prediction?
Yes. Diggs will get traded by the Patriots, traded or let go by the Patriots at some point before the end of the 25 season.
ESPN.com has a headline too that kind of like questions whether he's going to be on the team. It's what a glorious
Write
disaster.
this down.
Okay, Dex, your third and final prediction.
Yeah, write this down. Asante Samuel Jr. will sign with an NFC team between now and next week's. Write that down.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh, you're calling it.
Yep, calling it.
It's happening now. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Calling. I think he visited the Saints a few weeks ago. I know they just technically put Derek Carr on the reserve and the retirement list, but I think he'll sign with the team between now and next week's. Write that down.
Well, it kind of feels like our Purple Daily Anonymous tip line may have let us down. Maybe it wasn't Asante Samuel Jr. wearing a Vikings hat at a Fort Lauderdale club.
Or the Vikings rescinded the agreement.
Write this down. I'm going to avenge Declan's incorrect
Write it down. You like writing
UFL
things
pick.
down?
So what Declan didn't know is the Defenders were pulling a rope-a-dope on the Battlehawks last week. It was the regular season finale of the UFL. And the Battlehawks defeated the Defenders 13-8, but the Defenders knew that those two teams were going to play each other 1 week later in the playoffs. Why would you give away your game plan? Just you might as well throw a vanilla game plan out there, play your base defense, just run the ball into the line of scrimmage and set them up for a semifinal loss. So here's my prediction. The Defenders get their revenge on the Battlehawks in the UFL semifinals. Defenders over Battlehawks. Write that down.
So a week after Declan was wrong, you see through with the philosophy.
Well, sometimes, and by the way, it's considered the XFL Conference Championship, and then on the other side, it's the USFL Conference Championship between the Panthers and the Stallions. So it's like when it was the AFL and the NFL back in the day, and then it merges into like a minor league Super Bowl.
I can't wait to watch it.
The weekend of June 13th.
I cannot wait to be on my couch watching that battle.
By the way, former Viking Jordan Teamu, who was a camp body a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the Defenders quarterback.
Yeah, that's right. He's gonna sling it around the lot. 5:00 p.m.
Who's the,
on Fox this Sunday.
Who's the Battlehawks QB?
It's a great question.
It was McCarron.
I know it was. Yeah, I'm guessing he's not there now, but he was there.
There's three. Max Dugan. Dugan, I'm guessing, right? Brandon Silvers and Manny Wilkins.
Oh, Manny. Okay, yeah.
Manny Wilkins.
I remember him well.
Guy's a stud.
Great guy. Great guy.
Arm talent out the wazoo.
Could spin it.
Really.
We always said that guy can spin it. That's what we always said.
Don't let that guy get hot.
Write this down.
Hey, Jim Marshall. I know you wrote about this on Judd's Substack. Passed away yesterday at the age of 87. One of the most legendary Vikings figures. A founding member of the Vikings. He literally played every single Vikings game for the first 19 years of the franchise's existence, I think. 1961 through 1979. Member of the Purple People Eaters, legendary defensive front in the 60s and 70s. He was one of 11 players to have played in all 4 of the Vikings Super Bowl appearances in the 70s. He finished his career with a then record 282 consecutive games played. And I believe this is accurate, that he still holds a handful of active NFL records. Most seasons played by a defensive player, 20, 19 with the Vikings, 1 with the Browns, his rookie season. Most complete seasons played by a defensive player. Most consecutive games started, including playoffs, by a defensive player. 289 consecutive games started as a defensive player. And most opponent fumbles recovered, 29 throughout his career. 130 career sacks as well, by the way.
The fumbles recovered was tied by Jason Taylor in 2010, and he went into the Hall of Fame in 2017. Just going through, again, the stats, the longevity, first of all, but also the effectiveness. The fact that this man is not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is a crime. And unfortunately now, he probably, because of the circumstances, has a good chance to get in. So
I hate that, by the way. Like Pete Rose is now a totally different scenario. He's now eligible. What are we doing?
So the way that this works, too, is come late summer, he and hundreds of others will be considered senior candidates, which is what he was last year, okay? But last September, when that list came out, it was 183 guys, 183 names. What happens is then the senior screening committee cuts that list to 50, which Marshall and Chuck Foreman both made that list last year. And then the seniors blue ribbon committee comes in, I'm not joking here, and makes several cuts until the list is at 3 finalists and gets announced in the fall. Now, unfortunately, I think because Jim passed away, and again, his success is hammered home in the obits, I think he's got a chance, but it is a crime. So you just went through the longevity, which first of all is off the charts. Like, to play that long. This guy was a captain from the time that Bud Grant got here in 67 until he retired after the 79 season. He retired approximately 3 years before the sack became an official recorded statistic, which is crazy. Pro Football Reference went back to 1960 and went through all of the game books, the game logs, which, by the way, acknowledge sacks, okay? He had 127 of his 130 career sacks, according to Pro Football Reference, as a member of the Vikings. If you go through the unofficial sack record list of the franchise, Carl Eller, who also retired as a Seahawk after the 79 season, is the only player in Vikings history with more sacks. So Carl, deservingly, Hall of Fame. John Randall, who's behind Marshall, Hall of Fame. If you go through the list of the top 5, Chris Dolman, Hall of Fame. So if you go through the list of the top 5, the only guy who's not in the Hall of Fame is Marshall. The other thing is this, and this drives me crazy, okay? So the Vikings essentially, because it's difficult to retire a ton of numbers in football, don't retire numbers. They retired 6 numbers in their history. The only 2 that aren't in the Hall of Fame are Corey Stringer, who tragically passed away after his terrible dehydration story in 2001, and he's a special case. So he's not a Hall of Fame guy, but he tragically passed, and the Vikings did the right thing by retiring his number. But Jim Marshall doesn't have a place in Canton, you guys. And his number is retired, which is the ultimate honor a football team can give a player. The only year that Marshall was a finalist was 2004, which was his last year on the normal committee selection. So, I mean, those people starting in 85 to 2004, that group could have put him in, and they did not. The only 2 things that I could find of why, and they're ridiculous, are this. So he was only a Pro Bowl player in 68 and 69, and the only All-Pro team, which to me is the creme de la creme of, like, if you're going to be named to something. He was the second team AP All-Pro in 69 as well. But, okay, the stats are overwhelming. And then I think, and if you go back and look, it took a bunch of Vikings, Ranieri, McTinglehoff, far longer to get into the Hall than it should have. And that is blamed on the fact that they did not win one of those 4 Super Bowls.
I think you could add a third thing to the reasons why, which is the thing he is the most famous for, unfortunately,
that's
is
another one.
Picking up a fumble and running the wrong way into the end zone for a safety against the 49ers, I think it was.
66-yard run in 1964 at Kezar Stadium. Yes.
It's one of the more like embarrassing kind of boneheaded plays in the history of the NFL. And maybe that being a lasting memory is what, but I think longevity and peak performance are 2 major driving factors for any sport Hall of Fame candidacy. And in terms of longevity, he's 100th percentile longevity. No defensive player plays 19, 20 years in any era of the NFL. And that record still stands. And on top of that, he is tied for 22nd on the all-time NFL sack list, the unofficial list going back to 1960, ahead of several other Hall of Famers. Like Derek Thomas did it all in like an 11-year period. So in terms of peak greatness, okay, Derek Thomas may be more dominant at the peak of his career. But Dwight Freeney, he has 5 more sacks than Dwight Freeney, who played for 16 years in the NFL. He's a Hall of Famer. And Randy White for the 70s and 80s Dallas Cowboys, he has 20 more sacks than Randy White, and there's a bunch of other dudes here from like the 70s, 80s, 90s that he dwarfs in terms of sack count and longevity. So not just being like a biased homer because we do a daily Viking show, that dude should have been put in the Hall of Fame years ago, and it would be a damn shame if they did it after he passed away,
which they will do, I'm sure now.
It's absurd.
But the thing about it is the thought process. Okay, explain this. The thought process that he didn't get in because he's just flat out a borderline Hall of Fame player. Go back through the entire resume and you tell me, how is this borderline? How is this? And if we're going to hold 4 Super Bowl defeats against him, there's a lot of Vikings now who have gotten into the Hall with 0 appearances as a Viking in the Super Bowl. So if that's like, well, you lost 4. So are you telling me he would have been better off if they hadn't gotten to 4 so he didn't lose the 4? Like, no, and if they're holding the wrong way run against him, what type of idiot are you? Like, I know, and if nothing else too, you guys, that was one of the original plays that NFL Films used and gained them popularity for years. Like when I was a kid, and it wasn't like there was cable, right? Like you literally had, occasionally you would see this great, and it was fantastic, NFL Films. They would show that as a blooper, and it gained them popularity. And it's one play out of how many thousands? I tried to find it, I can't. How many thousands of snaps do you play when you don't miss a game from 1960 to 1979?
Yeah. So it's too bad. I mean, that he passed away, and also that his football legacy has never been fully recognized with a Hall of Fame bust. But Jim Marshall, 87 years old, legendary Minnesota Viking. All right, dudes, that's a wrap on this episode. One more sleep until Thor's Day, and some more JJ McCarthy propaganda tomorrow. The OG edition of Write That Down will be on your Mackie and Judd podcast feeds and the Score North YouTube channel. And don't forget, we have a brand new Flagrant Howls YouTube channel. So here's a list of our YouTube channels. Flagrant Howls, and that'll be the only place you can find the YouTube edition of that show starting next week. The Score North Twins Show, which has been on fire lately, just like the Twins. The O-Line Committee, and then the Score North channel as well. So check all of those out. And yeah, we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you guys.